Friday, which means it's time to deploy. Matt and I are not at home. You may notice we are in a different location. Matt, where are we?
We are in the fantastic city of Perth. We're over here, of course, for DDD in Perth, which is happening tomorrow on Saturday. Very excited for this. Keen to get along to the event tomorrow and see lots of people, talk to lots of people, hear lots of great sessions, and yeah, just engage with the community.
I left the sunny confines of the Gold Coast to come to the rainy confines of Perth. I didn't expect rain, but we're happy to be here. We're really keen to talk to you if you're going to be at the event. We'll be going around with a video camera, so if you want to have a chat with us, we'd love to hear from you. That being said, how was everyone's week? Charlotte, I'm assuming you're still at home.
Yes, I'm still at home in Sydney, and looks like it's about to rain. So yeah, glad you guys aren't here. But it was a good week. It
Awesome.
was a good, busy week. Wrapped up a bunch of big things which are to come next week. I think be really exciting for next week's talk.
Like, anything you can share?
I mean, just the report that a few of the articles that have been published have been about, but I guess it's like a bit more detail into all of the findings that we've had. So that will be published next week, and then
Okay.
alongside that is the next survey that I've been working for. Yeah,
Ooh, anything you can share? Any hints or as to what it's
I
going to be
guess
about? No?
it's platform engineering again, but it's goes into a lot more detail, and yeah, it's kind of on the same page as the talks that Matt has had today. Actually, what we're going to go into in this session. Um, yeah, more detail, a bit of AI, just finding out how I guess the long term effects of best practices and what people are changing, and yeah, how organizations are adapting to it. I guess. Yeah.
Awesome. And Matt, you're surviving this week, I assume, because you and I had to come on a late night flight over here from the East Coast. So how are you faring? How are things? How was your week?
Yeah, it was a great week. I am into my third coffee today, and it's lunchtime. I usually have one coffee a day, and I'm traveling okay. I'm wondering if I'm going to hit a wall little bit later on today, though. So yeah, my flight was meant to be in at like 9:30 local time, which is 11:30 for us back on East Coast, and I was delayed a little bit. We had a late
Oh
exit,
no.
so by the time I got off, and my three Uber drivers cancelled on me, and then I finally got in. It was a bit after midnight local time, and yeah, then I was up in the middle of the night for a webinar, but it's all good fun. So yeah.
So tell us about the webinar. You were there with Steve and Chris Perillo, very famous, the famous Chris Perillo from back in the day. So you, Steve, and Chris talked about the mandate trap, why forcing platform adoption creates a success illusion. What was going on here?
Yeah, so yeah, fantastic host, Chris. He was awesome to chat with, and of course Steve as well. So the idea was around, and this was coming out of some of the work that Charlotte and Steve have done around the platform engineering pulse report that we'll have next week available, and some of our findings. And the main one was focusing here around, you know, whether your platform is mandated or whether you make it optional at your organization, and just some of the things to consider around when adopting platform engineering. So we talked about different things like the adoption itself. We talked about success metrics, how long it takes for platforms to be successful in organizations based on the data that we've seen. And yeah, we just had fun and sort of unpacked different topics around it. And one of the things that kept coming up, because I kept saying it, was around how platform engineering and being successful with platform engineering is very much a communications thing within your organization. You really need to engage with the developers and the teams who are using the platform, understand what's working for them, what's not working for them, and almost like it's said before, but it's treating them as your customers. So if you try and imagine yourself as just being a product company, you want to engage with your users, do surveys, understand what's working, and it's exactly the same internally with the platform as well. So it's for us folks in IT who like sitting behind a keyboard and mouse and just chipping away at code all day. I mean, there's still that position that still exists, but you need a few
Yep.
folks on your platform team who are happy to go out and talk to people and really understand what's working well for them and what isn't. So yeah.
Do surveys, gather data. Charlotte, this sounds like a lot of the stuff you're doing.
Yeah, exactly right. And all the stuff that Matt just said, I've kind of, mentioned in the report that's coming out, which is awesome. But yeah, this next survey will hopefully go into a bit more detail about all those things as well, which will be really good. More insights is always good.
I like it. I love all the teasers we're throwing out there. This is great. So we have a couple of other webinars worth noting. Matt, you're busy. So we've got Platform Hub, a first preview coming up on Thursday, September 25th. Make sure to check that out. And then you've got a webinar here with Amit, which is on GitOps, principles, practices, surprises. We talked about this during the last deploy on Friday, so make sure to register for that. We've also got a couple of webinars, the 2 and 3 part series of Costas's top Argo CD anti-patterns. So you can check all of this and more up on our /webinars website. So make sure to check that out. We're going to have a lot more stuff announced there. We're going to be announcing very shortly Shipped. So Ship 25, if you aren't aware, this is a virtual event that we've done year after year. We're going to be announcing Ship 25 very soon. This is the event that we ran last year, Ship 24, and we'll be announcing Ship 25 very shortly. We do have a sessionize available for Ship 25. If I can quickly find it here, I believe this is it. No. Shipped 2020. Oh, dash 25. Sorry, sessionize dash. So we're going to be hosting Shipped on December 9th and 10th, and you'll find out more information. But our call for speakers is currently open. So what this means is if you're interested in speaking during Shipped, it's a virtual event. You can either record a session or you can do it live. And we would love to see you tell your story, share with us what you're interested in, etc. So you can submit your sessions now. This is up on Sessionize, which is really the easiest way to submit sessions. Check it out there. Anyways, that all being said, we've done a lot of events, etc. We'll just cover some of the news. So the biggest news, obviously, yes, let's talk about the product. The biggest news, obviously, is we have shipped 2025.3. Hooray! The crowd goes wild. So lots of stuff in 2025.3, some big feature items. Some of the stuff, as folks will know, we ship a lot of this stuff to Octopus Cloud first. And so some of this stuff you'll be like, what's the deal? This isn't new. Yes, it isn't new in the terms of cloud, but for folks who are running on-prem, this is now available in this release. So in 2025.3, we obviously have support for Kubernetes Live Topic Status, or KLOS, as we like to call it. We've got support for ephemeral environments. This is available as an EAP for cloud customers, which is part of that release. Of course, improved performance with more control over retention policies, and then greater control over complex processes with our new modernized process editor. I love this thing. It makes me so happy to see this work. It's a great environment. So anyways, 2025.3 is now available. We also posted another update here with Azure Private Link for Octopus Cloud. We've talked about this before, but lots of new stuff available. And any highlights or anything? I mean, it's kind of hard because we always talk about what's new, but anything that folks should know. I guess ephemeral environments would be the newest thing, I guess, for this release.
Yeah, exactly right. And that's actually something I'm deep in the weeds on right now, because we can internally make use of this for a lot of the sites that we host, which falls under our team that we manage as well. So things like our docs, our blog, different sites that we've got. This is a perfect example for setting up ephemeral environments. So Steve has given me the all clear to go ahead and start getting hands-on and tear this thing apart and start looking at it, which I'm super excited about, because ephemeral environments, the concept is relatively easy to grasp. You create a pull request, you have a temporary environment, you test it there, and then you throw it away. The implementation of that can be quite challenging depending on the tools and the processes that you're using. So, yeah, I'm very keen to work through that, which I'm doing right now, and I'll be sure to report some findings over the next couple of weeks as well.
The good, the bad, the not so ugly, I hope. But anyway, speaking of Steve, this is the blog post that he wrote that published recently. Top 5 features of internal deployment, developer platforms, or IDPs. This is based on our upcoming platform engineering pulse report. Looked at many aspects of real world practice and talking about these things naturally make sense if you've looked at anything relative to pipelines. So first and foremost, build automation, what I like to call CI, or continuous integration. Then deployment automation. These are things that you want to care deeply about. I have a phrase or saying that I like to say is that life starts with deployments, but a lot of folks naturally gravitate towards builds because they start with source code. I would argue you should set up your deployments first, then move back to your builds, and then move forward. Infrastructure automation, this is things like Terraform. This is utilizing config as code. This is using setup scripts, etc. Test automation, this might come back to the build automation part, especially if you're thinking about continuous integration, but this is something you should consider setting up as well. Test automation, utilizing mocks, utilizing test frameworks. This does require infrastructure in some cases, but there are lots of ways in which to do this. And then finally, last but not leastly, monitoring and observability. This is your Grafanas and your Datadogs. These are all kinds of observability tools out there to test all this. And Charlotte, you shared with us one of these really cool charts that you can see here, which talks about the top 10 platform features. What are we looking at here?
Yeah, so these are the top 10 platform features pulled from data from the survey. And essentially, it just shows like how many different organizations are using these features. And so you can see that it goes, yeah, builds, deployment automation, infrastructure, documentation, monitoring. And then another one that's of real interest is artifact management. So if you flip back to the the little, yeah, so this is one of the blogs that have come out just before the release of the report, and it's great. It's a great blog, but it goes into a bit more detail about the. I mean, that's actually the top six, because artifact management is also a really important feature which high performing platform initiatives implement, and low performing initiatives are less likely to do the test automation. What is it? Yeah, they're less likely to do artifact management and monitoring, which are three really important. I guess they're three really important and fundamental features for platform success. Yeah,
So
so kind of break.
when I think of artifact management, I'm thinking of Artifactory, I'm thinking of feeds, I'm thinking of things like package management, etc. Is that what that term means to you?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Mm, yeah.
I'm
So this
surprised.
is
Like, who are those 20% not doing builds?
Yeah, I don't know. I just wrote on what they are using, but I didn't even look
Okay.
into this, the opposite of that. But it might be something to
Hmm.
look forward to in the next sort of round of survey data that I go into, because it'd be interesting to see the effects of, um, yeah, the effects of not using build on meeting goals and things like that. That would be good to look at.
Gotcha. Well, there you
Yeah.
go.
Now,
There's
if I was to jump
oh,
in, sorry, John,
yes.
and make an assumption there. So, like you say, who are the 20% not using builds? I don't know this for sure. Like I say, I'll make an assumption, but this could be interesting to correlate back to in our next survey around what the goals of the platforms are. Because if you're in the early stages of adopting platform engineering, maybe your main pain points are around infrastructure automation and documentation. So for some teams, they might focus their initial platform initiatives on creating infrastructure as code, repositories or modules, and getting some centralized good documentation in place. So, and you know, again, making an assumption, maybe they're the ones who haven't yet put builds as a feature into their platform yet. So that's also something that we spoke about a lot in the webinar that was early this morning. Was, you know, there's a lot to platform engineering. Like we can see here, we've got 10 features. There's probably, you know, tens or hundreds of features you could build into a platform, and if you
Right.
try and do it all at once, you'll really struggle. So making sure that you've got the goals of the platform pinned down by, you know, the sponsors of the platform, the executives, the team who are wanting this, you know, that are supporting this initiative, and then making sure that you're focusing as a platform engineer on delivering those values back to the business initially. That's a key thing there. So yeah, I don't know. It could be interesting to unpack this further in our next survey to talk to customers who, you know, aren't doing builds, and then understand why that is. Maybe that's not as important to them as some of the other features of a platform.
There's only one way to find out is to read Charlotte's survey data and to read our reports coming out after the fact. So
Absolutely.
that's I guess part of the teaser for
Yes.
wanting
Yeah.
why you want to read this stuff.
Yeah.
I
So
like it.
register for the release next week.
Okay. Well, you heard it here. There you go. Another webinar blog post we have is Nick's. Obviously, we're reintroducing to some folks these concepts. So Nick's is basically talking about Kubernetes Live Object Status, the capabilities of what it is all about, the new icons that we've introduced, etc. These and other sorts of things are kind of old school to us now, but for folks who are just picking up the latest bits and seeing this for the first time, obviously this is something that they need to be aware of. So at the top of the products page, if you enable live object status, you'll see the statuses of the various agents running in Kubernetes and their health. And those are reflected by these new icons that we have. I love these icons. And so you'll see icons reflecting the health of your various deployments and the live status aspects associated with them. This also ties into the fact that if you want to, you can also view the some of the aspects around your Kubernetes objects. So you can view your manifest files, you can view the state of your pods, your controllers, etc. So these and other sort of aspects we expose to you through the tool. And so if you haven't seen this before, this is brand new. You set up an agent, you install it, and then you configure it to use Octopus as part of its deployment process, and then we reflect the live object status back to you through that. So this is just another update for that blog post for folks who haven't seen it. And Matt, of course, has gone ahead and done a blog post, a video about live object status. So what's in this new video we have up on YouTube?
Yeah, it's really the getting started and the overview. You know why you should care about it. A lot of what's in Nick's blog post will be in my video there. So if you're not sick of my face and or voice yet, and you want to listen to it rather than read it, you can do this. If you like reading, go ahead and read Nick's blog posts. So
Yeah.
yeah, in here I just show installing the agent, what it looks like, some of the things around inspecting those manifests. And yeah, I really love that from the deployment tooling, we've got this insight into the target object status in the cluster. Instead of having to, jump out into other tooling, get to the command line, run kubectl, put all your parameters and stuff in. So it's really nice to have all of this integrated right here in the portal from where you're doing your deployments from.
That's awesome. Awesome stuff. So we mentioned the webinars, we mentioned a whole bunch of stuff. Something that is brand new, hot off the press, that a lot of us just were like, oh, that's cool, is we actually have a new item up on our roadmap. So if you go to roadmap.octopus.com, make your homepage, if not a bookmark, as I always say, we have a new item here, our local MCP server. So Andrew Best, Bestie as we like to call him, wrote a little bit about this, and we'll explain the context for this. But basically, this has been a bit of a longer standing request in light of what we've been doing around AI. So with Octopus AI Assistant, we have a Chrome extension which provides a facility to give you information around your deployments through our deployment analyzer, project creation, etc., best practices, and custom prompts. Well, the thing about that is that it doesn't do a great job of trying to figure out what that assistant really should do. And it's not as intelligent as it possibly could be. So MCPs, or Model Context Protocol, is the basis by which we can connect or stitch these systems together in a way that they can do more heavy lifting. And so what we're looking at doing is building an MCP server that we can then expose that through to your AI assistant to get better abilities. And so this is something that we're working on. And Matt, I think you've uncovered. Matt's our resident sort of investigative reporter. So Matt, what's going on here with all of this?
Yeah, the team have done some great work, and I think by the time that Deploy on Friday goes live, we might actually have our repository for this go public, and the first version of it is to come out pretty soon. So we've had a lot of signal from our customers. We've had some customers who are even building their own versions of an Octopus MCP, which is obviously a strong signal for us to do it. So yeah, this is really good because it allows you as the end user to sit in your AI assistant, whether that's Claude or ChatGPT or Copilot, whatever it might be,
Yeah.
and then you can connect it through or establish a connection with the Octopus MCP server and all of your other MCP servers as well. And then you can start to look at chaining things together. So you might be able to talk to GitHub through your AI assistant with their MCP server and then tell it or get information from Octopus right in that same window. You don't have to jump to different tools or anything like that. So yeah, I'm really excited that the team has jumped on this so quickly and started to build it out. And I am itching to get hands-on with it. So
Same, likewise. I'll race you. Yeah, check. We'll, obviously, once we find out more information, we'll share that with you. But now it's time for everyone's favorite segment, Support on Friday. All right, so this is the part of the show where we talk about a article or thread that's come out recently on the advice channel in Slack. In this example, however, this is an old one. This is going to be interesting for us because this is one where the advice channel was an old one. So we're kind of doing a recap of Michael's post here. So last week we talked about Michael having some trouble trying to invoke the REST APIs that we exposed. So if you don't remember, you go back to the previous episode, but essentially he was using our documentation and trying to invoke the create release manually as part of this process and was struggling a little bit with that. And not surprising, it was a combination of poor documentation on our part, but also there was also some context that was missing. And so, Matt, you had some time to jump in there. I was working on videos, but you jumped in here. I should have probably posted the video there, but you jumped in there and got to talk with Michael. So what's the gist of what you guys discussed?
yeah, so this was a fun one. If I remember correctly, last weekend, I think my wife went out Saturday night.
Oh, there you
Kids were
go.
asleep. So what do? You open up the Octopus community Slack, and jump in there. So no, this was really fun though, because he's obviously been able to provide some of the things that worked for him, and then I wanted to try that from my side as well and just see if I could help, point in the right direction. And where we got to was, in my instance, I was doing this against a standard Octopus project, which is backed by
Yes.
the database. And then what we figured out was that he was using a version controlled project, so that's backed by Git. And where we got to with that was they are actually different API calls to create releases depending on the type of project that you've got. Yeah. So we just went back and forth a little bit, as we can see here. I was trying some different things and saying, hey, I've ran this against here, and this is how I can get packages and specify package versions. And yeah, after a bit of back and forth, when was it, on Tuesday, we got to a point where he'd got everything working and found all the missing pieces and was able to move forward with creating the release that he needed. So yeah.
Brilliant.
That's awesome.
Brilliant. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. Sorry, Charlotte, I interrupted.
No, I said that's awesome too. That's great. Good work.
Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah.
Yeah. Good job, Matt. I of course experienced this when building out the Go client with the team when working on the Terraform provider and the new CLI, and we experienced this ourselves. I didn't realize that, or I didn't think that to ask the question if Michael had been using a Git backed repository for his database. But yeah, if you're utilizing the API and it is backed by a database, the API is underpinning a database for Octopus that's built in Git. That is going to change the semantic heuristics of how you call the endpoint. Now, of course, we account for this in our client APIs, which is part of what I was saying last week. But if you are going to invoke it manually, obviously you need to include Git references. You have to provide paths, and the APIs do differ depending upon that. So that's where I think some of the problem was being encountered. We actually do have different APIs based on that. And so thanks, Matt. Good job. And it's awesome that you got your hands dirty, arguably a Saturday night, so you didn't have much to do, I guess, if the wife and kids are either asleep or out. So I know that well. You can see here, there's things like, there's these sections of the API you have to include, like version control references. That includes your git commit, git ref, etc. If those things are missing, the API will not work because it needs that information in order to do its work. And so that's what you were able to discover with him. And yeah, just good to know. So good job.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, it was good because I didn't know this either. So I certainly learned something through the process as well, which was really cool. Yeah, I was bashing my head against the wall initially because he was getting like a 404 when just trying to create a release on a project. And I'm like, this can't be right. And it just turned out that it was the wrong API call for the wrong type of project. That's why it was not finding it. So yeah.
Was that pun intended you just used? You were bashing your head against the wall. We're using bash to. Sorry. Okay,
Yeah,
I'll see myself out.
I'm
Anyways.
too tired, but I'll pretend it was planned. Yeah.
Yes, that's right. Okay. All right. Well, that wraps it up for this week. Sorry for the digs. Obviously, Matt and I are in Perth for DD Perth. If you're at DD Perth, we'd love to talk to you. Charlotte, I hope the weather improves. The weather here is terrible, but that's the way it is, I guess. So Australia, cold one day, on fire the next, etc. So that's life here in Australia. Anyways, from all of us to all of you, thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week. Happy deployments, everyone. Take care.